Hello and welcome. I am the Restless Kaiser.
And I am Johnny B.
I am Poggy D.
And I am Big Mek Danskull.
But together we are
Modeling for Advantage.
All right.
No lag whatsoever. Perfect.
I was probably slick. So, quick whip round, see what everybody's doing tonight before I have a look at the comments. I am working on painting some ultramarines for the kids at school.
Whoa.
Yeah, mate. I've got my crag blue and everything.
Jesus. I'm doing a menagerie of things. I'm going to work on Kaiser's Celt Boss and some old school Imperial Guard, some Talon, a Stormtrooper, and I just finished off with a nice Goblin Green base and more D9 Guards. So that's what I'm playing around with. Mr. Pogson, sir, what are you up to?
I am getting onto these little Lannister Guardsmen, which the Kaiser do 2 years ago, and I'm starting.
The Song of Ice and Fire. Well, mine are almost painted, of course. And for anyone that wants to see how nicely mine have been painted, Jason from Battle Knights has been painting them up for me. Sorry, Big Mek Danskull.
I am working on some Warhammer Underworlds miniatures, Garruk's Reavers, which I've had the box since it came out, and I finally got around to painting them. So there we go.
Righty-ho. We're going to have a quick look at the comments, and then we get Big Mek Danskull to introduce himself. So Josh Wood can't be with us tonight. Oh, no. Subcommandante says he's got his beer and popcorn ready. No one else can stand guaranteed to win the prize. We don't have a prize tonight, mate. It's all being saved up for the big Bolt Action prize. Richard Taylor got some
is a night with the man in the bottom left, Mr. Pogson. Night out with him. That's the prize.
What a prize. What a prize.
I'll take the prize. I'll take that. That sounds like fun.
Evening all, got some King's German Legion Dragoons ready to paint. Very nice. Richard John, one of our members there. Hi, buddy. Team Clueless Games, another member. Good evening. Friends of General Haig says, evening all. Texan is with us. Cheese and bread. That's not Spud, is it? On some fake account.
I think it could be.
And Smith 270. Okay, John.
So, Mr. Big, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. Just assume I'm doing Austrian. It's not going to allow me to do it today. I've got a bit of a sore throat. But who is your daddy, and what does he do?
Well, I am Big Mek Danskull, and I like to paint little men on the internet. I've got a YouTube channel, Big Mek Danskull, and I paint a lot of orcs, some Imperial Fist, Deathguard, basically every faction under the sun in Warhammer 40k. And occasionally I dabble in other games like Warhammer Underworlds, and yeah, that's about it.
Nice.
All right, so yeah, we got here. You guys don't see Mr. Pogson very much. He's the good-looking chap there. Look at that.
Look at that bald head.
But he also is the only player on the channel who's got a Orc army they play regularly. So we thought we'd sort of try and get these fellas on together. So one of the first things to say about orcs, there's something about orc players I find that makes them a bit different to your average 40k player. There's so much more interest in sort of kit bashing, and I think a lot more attachment to clan culture. People are really quite partisan about it. So I would say, I would describe myself as a Space Wolf player, but I probably at some point have thought, I'd quite like to do some, Black Templars, and I'm not quite as committed to them in the same way as I think your orc players tend to be like, wow, this is what I do. What do you think?
Big time.
Yeah.
For me, you carry on, Big.
I was just going to say, yeah, I think it's you can get a fair bit of that, to be honest. I'm kind of like the exception to the rule, though. As I said, like I've got an interest in the hobby overall, so I've got like I've got like all the factions in a small amount. But yeah, I think a lot of people do get really behind the idea of the character of what it is to be an orc and stuff like that, and they get fully invested in the idea of running across the battlefield into the enemy. We've got Frost and Fist in the chat, and Mythos, I know, has in the past year started collecting an orc army, and it's like he was born to play orcs, because the way he doesn't use tactics. He just runs across the battlefield and gets his little men into combat as soon as possible. And that's quite similar to the way I play. So despite the fact that years ago I would have never dreamed of playing orcs because I didn't really like the models, because it's always aesthetics first for me. But more recently, when I got back into the hobby, 10 years ago though, so a long time ago now, but when I got back into the hobby, the models had all been updated, and I really like the aesthetics. So I got them, and I just, I want to do that thing where you run across the battlefield, even with the ones with the guns and like the looters and stuff like that. I still want to move them across the battlefield and get them to hit something. So I think that's a weird mindset that a lot of orc players have.
I mean, you just play Space Wolves, which are about as close as you can get in the Space Marine side, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Although there's a lot more competition for that.
Have you ever played Skyrim, the video game? Has anyone ever played that?
Yes.
Johnny B lives Skyrim.
Well, there's this sort of concept. I've played it, probably gone through it about 4 or 5 times. And every single time I say to myself, yeah, I'm going to be an archer this go, or I'm going to be a wizard, or I'm going to be... No, every single time I'm a man, big man, with a huge two-handed axe, just running at people and hitting with them. So, yeah, I think there's something in that. There's something very attractive about the orcs of just running at stuff and hitting it with things.
Absolutely.
I can quite honestly say every other player in Skyrim is the opposite. They're like, I'm going to be a big axe-wielding dude, bro. And you inevitably end up being an archer. You sneak around, and it's the easiest way to survive.
That's for quitters.
But yeah, why can't you be an orc? Why weren't you an orc? I thought you were going to, like, proper theme it then. You can be an orc.
Always an orc. Oh, you mean man? Yeah, so a man orc. But yeah, always an orc.
Man orc. There you go. I'm going to mute myself. Whilst I blow my nose.
Winning or losing doesn't matter. So the other thing about the orcs, because I one of my armies is Deathguard, and I quite like them. And orcs, I think, have a similar kind of problem, is that they've got a really mixed aesthetic. Some of their stuff is quite comic, and some of it is quite serious and aggressive and dangerous looking. And they don't seem to decide, because some of the Nurgle models, they've got that kind of laughing Buddha look about them, and then other ones they're just grotesque, and and I feel it's almost like there's not a consistent design concept. And I definitely see that in orc models, some of them quite seriously posed, and some of them looking quite comedic, really. How do you work with that? Do you mind mixing that up, or?
I myself, I think I've kind of mellowed a little bit as an older hobbyist now, shall we say? So I'm not as fussed about whether there's a comedic model mixed in with the more serious, like brutal looking models, but I do with orcs. I tend to lean towards a gritty sort of look. So I don't tend to go for like a lot of the reason. One of the reasons I didn't like the aesthetic in the 90s is because I felt they looked comical a lot of the time. So I do prefer the more modern, grittier look that they've gone for in I say recent years, but since when I dropped out of the hobby in the probably mid 2000s. So I do prefer with my orcs a more brutal look, but I know what you mean about Deathguard as well. That's kind of one that sort of walks that fine line. There's the chuckling, jolly Nurglings and certain characters that have that jolly aesthetic, but then it sort of clashes with the more serious, brutal looking things.
I think it's okay when it's so, like for me, for example, with the orcs, if it was that they put that comedy in the grots, in the way that Nurgle, if you put that comedy in the Nurglings, but then you've got that Lord of Contagion, Lord Felthius, and he's a grossly overdone model, and he just looks like he's from a completely different, it looks like it's from a different manufacturer who kind of missed the point, really, with it. So you know, and I struggle to fit that in, to be honest. You know, I have that mod, and I like it because I think it's really strongly stylized.
Yep.
But it doesn't seem to fit for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I changed his face slightly when I converted it to. There's certain Deathguard Terminator models, I think, that have a sort of face where the flesh is sort of melded with the helmet and they've got no eyes and stuff. So I did that kind of thing with my version of it. I put green stuff down over his eyes and made it look like cracked ceramite. So the top half of his head is just like blank, basically. And the bottom half has still got his trademark grin on there. So it kind of looks a bit creepier, but it's still got that sort of a certain jolliness to it, I think. But it tones it down a little bit, I personally think, anyway.
Yeah. Be good to see that.
Mythos says Skyrim is the one exception for me. Like Johnny, I always end up as a stealth archer.
Yeah.
So for those of you that are members, the emoji should be live. And if you've not used emojis before, I don't know whether it gives you instructions, but essentially if you do colon, then type doofer, colon, hopefully that's got the emoji. So there's doofer, mate, and boo. Try those with 2 O's. I'll be grateful if you could try them and see if they actually work. So Commandant says she's tried a mage in Skyrim and it sucked.
Yeah.
Why is that then, guys? Is it too hard or?
Well, you just kind of everything's at a distance, and you're kind of flowing these fireballs, and they sometimes hit, they usually miss, and then they come and run at you and they kill you because you don't have any of those stats. I just big axe, run at them, smack them on the head. Love it.
Right, there is something quite satisfying about that style of play, or the stealth archer. It's all good, but yeah, wizards are just nah. They're good late game, I'm sure, but
I
don't think anyone ever has got there.
Right. I guess it never occurred to me that Skyrim was a multiplayer fighting game. I thought it was a.
It's not. It is a solo experience.
Right.
It is a story, you versus the world.
What story?
You know, the one that you ignore and go and pick carrots for the farmer instead. You know, like any other game with options. You could save the world, but this is still a side mission. I think I might do that.
That Fallout, the newest Fallout game was really bad for that, wasn't it? It's like someone's kidnapped my son, but maybe I need to plant some crops, right? You're like, hang on.
Yeah,
you're losing focus here, mate.
There's no urgency in games like that. But there could be if you choose to play like that. Oh, well. Anyways.
No one does.
So they do so they're not coming through on the StreamYards, Mythos. I don't know whether
they are live on the YouTube.
Are they working?
Yeah, I just checked. Yeah.
Ah, right, cool. London crowd, hey Johnny. On mobile, you can just tap the face to the left of the chat bar. It brings up the custom emojis as well. Right, there you go. Sword and board is okay. We need to not talk about Skyrim all night because I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Actually, so question. I do have one question.
Yeah, go for it.
Talk to me, Underworlds. Have you played Underworlds?
Yeah,
I've seen little bits on YouTube, and it's pulling my attention a little bit. It looks quite cool. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I'd say play Underworlds if you like deck building games because it's all about how you structure your deck and everything. Your deck of cards. You've got cards that you can draw, and they give you certain actions, certain advantages, and stuff like that. I don't like deck building games, so I've got the game, but I don't often play it because it doesn't appeal to me. The one thing about it that appeals to me a lot is the models. Some of the sculpts in Underworld's sets are fantastic. So that's I do pick up the odd set now and again, but I don't really play the game very often, unfortunately. Since the original came out, I've not got any of the newer versions that have been released because I think that it's just like a slightly more complicated version of the last one. That's what it seems like when I watch videos about them. But yeah, I'm not the best man to talk about it.
You know, I think I agree. I think the thing that was sort of pulling my attention was the models. They look fantastic. I always love
models
the
gorgeous.
concept of maybe, you know, a game where you only have 2 or 3 models to be worrying about, you know, especially as an orc player when I've usually got 100 guys that I've got to run up. The idea of having 2 or 3 is very attractive.
If you are just playing for fun, though, and you want just like a 15-minute game or something, it is a good game to have on your shelf, because once you've got those models painted up, you can just pull it out and play it with someone who's not even a war gamer, and you know, you can explain the concept of it pretty quickly.
Nice. Okay.
We got I think a 40k rules question here. We're probably not the channel to be asking this. Distance limit for disembarking from transport. So far as I know, there's no requirement to stay away from enemy models, and you have to deploy within 3 inches of the vehicle you disembark from. But that doesn't. There's no. That you could still be practically base-to-base contact with the enemy, but don't quote me on that. That's how I understand it to work.
That sounds like it could be right to me.
It could be. So what I would say about Underworlds, because we did play a little bit of it on the channel in the early days, I looked at it and said, I like short games. I like the low model count. I really like the fact that they're unique sculpts for each of the models.
Yep.
Like you say, it's like, okay, I'm up for this. And I fundamentally misinterpreted what that game was, because it is a short game, but it isn't a casual game at all. You know, so you've got a deck of cards which you build yourself before the game, and these cards are all like Magic the Gathering cards. It's not like play a card, do +1 damage next round. If they're the cards you're using, you're not going to win. You need cards that have got a slab of text about how they work and how those cards all interact with each other. And each of the war bands is going to work better. Some of them are going to score their points by not fighting. Some of them are going to score their points by getting objectives, like kind of. And I quickly realized, I thought this would be a fun game. I just wish that there was a better out of the box experience with a pre-built deck.
Yeah.
But the cards that come with the war bands, they are unique to that war band, but they're not necessarily the best cards to use with that war band.
Yeah.
So again, it's not like we tried playing a few of those as a sealed deck experience, and actually some of them were really bad and some of them were really good, because they're expecting you to use them in combination with other cards. So your first few games I think you can really enjoy, but you quickly realize it's quite a competitive game, is what I would say on that. Playing orcs, I look for a laugh. I don't use named characters. Is I got called Leggett, who usually drags my war boss off the table so he can fight again. There you go. A little bit of narrative there. Yeah, okay.
Nice.
Yeah, that's
Boris Ghost Entertainment. Hello there, folks.
You very rarely find an orc player that takes themselves too seriously.
So being on the other end of being an orc player, because John and Pogson have actually played a game on our channel. It was your only 9th edition game, was it, David?
It was, yeah.
Because you had all these lockdowns in the UK, and the footage went all corrupted, so we had to use
such a rookie.
All we were left with was what was on the phones, you know, the close cam footage. I cobbled something together, and it was a classic orc game in that all of the really random stuff, like the shock attack gun, the 12-inch charges, all of that stuff played out for Pogson on turn 1, and John just got utterly crushed. It was a 1.5 turn game.
It's the kind of way you want to get beaten by orcs. Nothing failed. They believed in themselves so much. They just it was the 3 copter bike things. They just flew literally straight across, hit me. The boys couldn't fail a charge. It was epic. Shock attack had its best performance ever. Yeah, I mean, he didn't even such a shame.
The jump a unit of 20 boys because he didn't need them. There was no room to get them in combat. No. Yeah. Everything had just played out.
He didn't even need the numbers. He was just mincing me.
He was one of my life.
Yeah, and that the reason why I cobbled something together out of the close cam footage was like, you're never going to have a game like this again. Everything is played off. And
that was a cracking game.
And we lost the footage. There was some footage, but the audio hadn't worked. There was a lot of background noise I couldn't get rid of, and it was a bit corrupted. I don't really know why. Shame.
True fact, Ogrins with slab shields and leg on it trigger people. True fact.
Go on, John. Tell them the story.
No, just go watch it. Go watch it and read the comments. There you go. But some dude was not appreciative of my modelling choices of 10 years ago when slab shields and grenade gauntlets were all right, you know, as a to take. But this guy was deeply offended, like I'd done a wee on his
John, you're being too cryptic.
grade.
You need to tell him the story or not talk about it. But you're
No,
too
that
deep
was it.
now.
He literally just said, don't take grenade gauntlets and stab shields. That's the most ridiculous combination ever. Go and die in a corner somewhere. Or words to that effect.
John had there was a comment on that video from somebody about how bad John's choice of weapons was for his ogre, and this guy was absolutely furious that John had just been blatantly trying to lose the game. How would he dare build his units so badly? And this guy was like 10 comment thread about this, and then going on about this. Well, I always magnetize all of my weapons so that I can make the right choices for the game. And he's just like, well, and I don't.
Wrong channel.
Yeah, exactly. And that's an interesting thing, because in the early days, Big Mek Danskull, you tell me this. In the early days, I got, you know, my kind of your first 50 subscribers, and you're like, whoa, I'm going somewhere now. And then you get a negative comment. And I'd be like, oh, shit, mate, this is really bad. People don't like it. I need to think about changing it. And now when I get a negative comment, I tend to be like, if that's how you feel, you're not going to like this channel.
Yeah.
This isn't for you.
Yeah, especially when you've been doing it for a little while. You've kind of established yourself, the sort of the feel of your channel and everything. And the people that come to you and stick around, they're invested in you, and they're invested in the way you present yourself, the way you present the videos, and the banter you have in the back reps, or whatever kind of videos you're making. So if someone comes into it and they start criticizing choices you make in a battle or something like that, or modeling choices you make, then they're not at the right channel.
No.
But then you'll see the people back week after week occasionally with certain people. They'll just keep coming back. I used to have this one commenter on my conquest videos, and he'd always say something like, it was a good review, but not as good as Spec. Spec's better. You should do it more like him, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what do you want from me? I'm going to be doing it the way I'm doing it. So either watch my videos and enjoy it, or
don't.
Just watch Spec's videos. It's fine.
Yes.
It's interesting.
My favorite...
Carry on.
My favorite ever comment about that was one chap made a comment, said this, I can't remember what we called the video. I think it was like a top 10 tips on a codex or something. And he said, this isn't a top 10 video. This is a review video. If you change the title, I'll subscribe.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought, gosh, you have a horrendous sense of self-importance, don't you?
Yeah. I am important enough for you to make a decision on a video like that.
Based upon the fact that you might subscribe. I said, mate, if I was prepared to go down that route, I was practically selling my butthole on the docks, mate, for a couple of subscribers. I'm not, it's not, again, yeah, I'm already mortgaged up to the hilt on that one. Right, Boots, trying to work through the comment. Boots on the Table with Dom. What is this? Only a few models. If you don't know Boots on the Table with Dom, and I'm sure everyone here does, Dom starts his weekly painting update videos saying, I haven't done much this week, and then showcases the 40 models he's painted. So he doesn't necessarily grasp the idea of this low model count game. So, Pogson, you said you were just interested in it for this reason. So what's the appeal of the low model count? What would you want out of that? Why would it work for you?
Well, because I like spending time on one model and actually trying to make it look good. As Johnny B has called me several times.
Sure, mate, see it, Dan.
Yes. So
I'm
a noob. So I'm sort of learning how to paint. I'm getting there. I've done the orc thing for a while, so I know that it's painting 30 boys and then painting another 30 boys and then painting another 30 boys. So it's quite nice just to get one model and really spend some time on it and really try to make it your own and really spend, that's quite nice. So I think because I've done orcs, I'd like another game where it's just completely different and it's 2 or 3 models when you're really taking some time on.
Focused.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure you had a character or 2 in your orc army that you'd put some real effort in, your war boss and whatnot. They were quite unique.
And the pain, I've got quite a nice pain boy that, again, I'd actually just spent some time on. I think like a few days kind of thing. I like that. I think that's much more enjoyable than banging out another orc boy.
Banging out another orc boy.
Innuendos.
That is a fact, Brush and Quill. You're not established until you've got a troll. Miller's Miniatures is here, but he's going to be on the show in a couple of weeks. Looking forward to seeing that. Some people need to get alive. Yeah, I mean, negative comments. So we said, your rational self has realised, like you said, Dan, that this guy isn't going to like my content. But do you not still get riled by it? Do you not still? What do you do? What do you actually do with it? Do you ignore it? Do you tackle it? Do you leave it?
It's different every time.
Asking for a friend.
For me, it's different every time, and it depends what they've said. Like one person, I think it was the same guy actually that always commented on my conquest videos. He said at one point, he said, "Why is your face so red? Is it like because I get like rosacea and like red marks all here, sort of dry skin and rosacea?" But he's like, it was particularly bad flare up one video, and he said, "Why's your face so red? Have you been huffing plastic glue, something like that?" And it was like that kind of like hit me a bit. So I just to that one, I just responded with what I've just said to you, like I get rosacea and this and that. And if he'd said that to someone that was really like I get a bit self-conscious of it now and again, but if he'd said that to someone that was really self-conscious of it, it's a horrible thing to say, like bring it up like that. But so it sort of hit me a bit because I do get a little bit self-conscious of it. Right. But I just you've got to be different with each person. I think sometimes you can, if it's like not a massively bad comment, you can just have a little joke with them back and forth. And then, but others, like it depends. Like if it cuts some you can just like delete straight away from the channel without even thinking twice about it, really. And for me though, mentally, I do tend to just think, well, that's fine, and just move on from it now. I think I've had enough comments that I've been like, yeah, well, let's just move on from that. But when you're first starting out, it is a more of an issue, I'd say, getting comments, bad comments like that.
Absolutely. There's a lot of interest in the selling of bottles on the docks, it seems. Mythos is interested if that's going to help his subscriber count. Elster Nation wants to know if it's only the docks. There's obviously he's got, he's maybe not in a seaside environment, but wants to get in on the action. I mean, I remember John was really excited with the first kind of easing of the lockdown, whereas you can meet up to one person outside and you can have a coffee. So he was back in the dogging game at that point.
Yeah, it opened up my secondary hobby of dogging. I mean, Belle enjoys a walk, and I thought it would be good to take her out for a nice little walk. That's what it is, right?
Yeah, that's my understanding of it.
Dogging is walking your dog with friends. So, I was very happy. Crazy. I find it very interesting how people do. When I comment on videos, I comment as me.
Yeah.
This is my genuine view of what's going on. What scares me is that going back to people that comment sort of nastiness and trolls, are these like, is this a hobby of their own? Are they commenting as somebody else? Do you know what I mean? Are they commenting as a different persona, or is this legit? These people exist and have those views.
Yeah,
because I've not met many in the flesh.
Yeah, my regular troll, they just had AS just as their YouTube name like identity, and they had no picture or anything like that. So they were like just a keyboard warrior that goes around videos trying to ruin someone's day or something like that, just to get a little kick out of it.
And you're so, like you say, you're so fragile. I mean, so I went through the stage of like feeling I needed to change something, to then not just ignoring them, you know, don't feed the trolls. But now I just straight up, you know, if what they're saying is something about the core way that we do things, just like, you know, this guy's a prick or something, I'm just straight up said, look, you're not going to like what we do.
Yeah,
you know, this is how we do it, and this is who we are, and there's plenty of other stuff out there, which I actually found quite empowering, to be honest, because I used to get quite upset about it. Now just to say, this guy's never going to like what I do. I'm not losing anything. So why don't I just, if in real life somebody came up to me and said, actually, your beard, you look like a prick, I wouldn't just walk away from that. I would have something to say. And because it's your channel, you're quite sensitive about it and how you appear. But I think once you've been doing it for 6-12 months, most of the people that are watching you on your channel, they like you, they're behind you, they're with you. You're not going to lose any subscribers by calling out a troll or whatever. Provided that is a troll, though, because you do sometimes hear people say, how do you feel about people making videos about their trolls?
I think
some people do that, don't they? It's like, I've had a negative comment and then they make a video about it.
Yeah, in our sort of side of things, like the geeky sort of hobby, I know Geek Gaming Scenics, former Luke's APS, he's done that, where he's reviewed trolley comments, and I think it's, you know, it's just I think it's kind of like showing the trolls that you can troll them just as much as they troll you, kind of thing. Because if everybody sees their comment, especially if they leave the username up, which they're fully entitled to leave that username up, because you know, you've posted in a public forum effectively, you know, whatever comment you put. So I think it's a fun way to sort of poke fun at trolls, that, and, you know, especially if it's like stupid comments and you can show in the video that you're having a laugh and you don't really care about it, kind of thing. You can get that across. If you're doing a video and saying these comments really hurt, then that leaves you open to further trolling, let's say.
That's a gate.
I just wondered if we wanted to do, you know, if it's worth thinking like maybe once a year, top 10 comments this year.
It's
as a thing, you know, because there's always going to be that guy that says, your face makes me sick. Like, okay, here it is again. You know what I mean? Lee Brown, I think it's very much a seller's market by the looks of things here. Step away from a Goblin, surprising. I'm not sure.
I like Sock from the Dance. How he
just block the dicks.
Just block the dicks. That one there. I comment as an Elizabethan gentleman.
So Commandante, he's got. I love his avatar, the Mr. T with the cup of tea there. I think some trolls do it as well, but I think some people do, and I think it's a mistake as well. Sometimes you see people saying, you know, you're a weakling, or you're just getting your jollies by being rude to me. I think, and you're making all kinds of assumptions about that other person. I think that's not necessarily true, actually, but I think. So one of the things I thought was worth talking about tonight, anyway, as we're halfway through the show and have said nothing of any value to anyone, David and I work in a school, and as I'm having to go up painting some of these tonight, we do some. We run a wargaming club for kids. And something I thought was worth sort of talking about, wargaming, about those childhood wargaming experiences. I think was probably worth sharing, and then see what comes out of that, if that's all right. So John, I mean, I know you've talked this a little bit about before, but how did you get into gaming as a kid? What's that all about?
Oh, it is completely my brother's fault. He's 9 years my elder, and he basically got moaned at to take me down to the Games Workshop. I was literally like 4 years old, and I had no idea what was going on. But it's cool. It's like little dude bros, man, little soldiers and everything. And my first ever. In fact, I've got some here because I'm revisiting them. Not that you'll be able to see them. First ever unit was a unit of renown, regiment of renown for Warhammer called the Red Redemption. And I was so happy about them. Paul, my brother, painted them up and we put them on the table. First game of Warhammer. And these big bearded metal bikers, right, metalers, because that's what it was back in the 90s, just crushed me. Just crushed me. The beastmen jump over a fence and crushed my little unit. And I cried. Literally cried.
You're still hurting inside, aren't you?
Yes,
Still hurting inside.
I will find them. I will find them. I will have my revenge.
Right.
I just never got out of it.
I had one who emailed me to demand I repaint the livery and one of my recent models because his research was right and mine was wrong based upon the writing of an author he dislikes. Well, that's interesting, isn't it, Martin? Because your channel, you do very much talk about the history being really important. And I guess at some point you're going to come into conflict with people who have different views on that. And that's going to cause, whereas if you're an idiot like me and you just say, look, what, Royal Yorkists, red and burgundy and blue, right? I'm not going to stress myself over the exact shade and the exact bags for which particular Yorkist we're talking about. I might get away with it a bit more. It's interesting. David.
Yeah.
How did you get into? Because obviously I know you as someone who came to my school and joined in our club and helped out. But I don't know whether you played before or whatever. Was that? How did you get into gaming?
So, my dad, when I was very little, and when my dad was still around, man. We used to play D&D, and he had like a couple of friends that would come around. And I think one of his friends was, the dungeon master and all that kind of thing. And I very much enjoyed that. So I did a bit of that. And then when it was just me and my mum, we used to go to Milton Keynes at the some weekends. And my mum used to just drop me in the Games Workshop and say, leave me alone for a few hours so she could go off and do the things that she wanted to do. And so from there, because I always had a bit of a love for it. I'll be honest, growing up, we didn't have a lot of money going around, so I could very rarely afford any of the actual models. And then, why are you laughing?
No, I'm dealing with the comments. I'm responding to the comments while you're talking.
He's looking down at you.
He's just looking down at me from
No. Sorry, did I not explain beforehand?
God.
It was just really poor timing that you jovially laughed at him being poor when he was a small child.
And then
that was the issue.
Yeah, so then enjoyed that. But actually, what I used to do was I used to get copies of White Dwarf, and I used to cut out the pictures of the models.
Nice.
So I used to play battles and stuff like that with those. Yeah, that was my
mate. Pro move.
That is a pro move, absolutely.
We've got to do that, John. We've got to have a game. Get your old White Dwarfs and we'll cut them up.
Yeah. But now,
not touching them.
Mate, I'm not touching them without gloves on. I know that much. He keeps them under the bed and they've got white, clean covers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, my mum got really worried when she lifted the mattress and found them.
A lot of White Dwarf.
Yeah, she's like, hang on a minute.
Why can't you get Playboy like normal kids?
Yeah.
Going to hate my Soviet Team Yankee Army. I mean, I think on that one, Mythos. So coming on to, I think Mythos always says the same thing on this thing. Is with the hobby, you do you is such an important approach to this, isn't it? If I want a really high level of detailed historical accuracy, that's for me to decide. And if I'm not comfortable playing someone whose Marine, whose Soviet World War II army is all pink with bunny rabbit ears that they've kit bashed, I suppose if I'm not comfortable playing that, then I need to say that. But broadly speaking, it's that person's army and that person's choice, right?
It does work both ways. Just don't be a dick about it, right? That's
Yeah. So Big Mek Danskull then, tonight's guest. What got you into the hobby? Obviously, being a Manchester fella, you're mad for it anyway, and that covers all topics, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel about football? Mad for it.
I am mad for it,
mad
mate.
for it. Yeah, mad for it. Yeah.
Absolutely mad for it. Yeah. So my friend going to a grammar school got me into a hobby. Got me into the hobby, not a hobby, not a random hobby that I'm just going to start talking about now. Got me into the
With the
hobby.
dogs.
Yeah. So he went to we lived in South Manchester, but then he moved to Stockport and he ended up going to Stockport Grammar. And all the rich boys there played it because it's an expensive hobby. So he got into it, and then I got into it sort of through him. And then I ended up taking a, I think it was like a beginner's guide sort of thing to into my foam class in school one day, and one of the other lads in my class spotted me reading it, or more accurately looking at the pictures, because I just did not read at the time. Like I could sort of read, but it was very stunted. Anyway, so he spotted me perusing it, and then he was like, "Oh, do you play Warhammer?" I was like, "Yeah, just I've got like some Eldar and blah blah blah." And then that sort of encouraged me to get into it a little bit more. And to this day, that person that came over and spoke to me about it, he's like the main person I play now. But he lives down in Derby now, so the games are few and far between.
Ooh. What an awesome story.
Wholesome.
So wholesome indeed. So one of the observations I've made with it, and I don't know, David, because this club that we run, there's a huge attraction to Warhammer compared to all of the other games. That is the game that kids want to play. And that's really difficult for us because the kids are coming to high school at 11 years old with little or no experience, maybe some models, but probably not. And they want to play Warhammer.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of doing it, though. I've been impressed with, you've always been able to get hold of models quite early on. Actually, Warhammer are quite good at doing those kind of, those magazines where you get one model and you can learn how to paint. And that's been quite a good way of sort of like that little tester, isn't it? Are you willing to go past that first boundary? Are you willing to do that? And then, you bought the 40K sort of starter kit, didn't you, for school?
Yeah.
That was very good. So they learned how to play. They learned how to do that. And you're putting in a few, because like any kid, I guess, with any hobby, it's very easy to start something and then just move on to something else. With Warhammer, you can spend a fortune doing that.
Yes.
So I think we're quite good at putting in a few little hurdles, I guess, little hurdles to jump over it. Okay, right. Well, now you're ready for this, and now you're ready for that. And I think that's been it's quite an organic, nice way of doing it. And I think it's helped the kids really sort of get into it. And now they're beating it on a daily basis.
Yes, and we run. It's I suppose like a lot of things is we start and we get this sort of great swathe of kids as soon as they arrive in high school that want to do it, and for the first few weeks they have to build and paint one of the models that Games Workshop have sent us. But I want to play it. Said, well, this is not a hobby you can do without doing this first. So you're going to build and paint this model. But we have some kids still there, 5 years later, we're taking them to tournaments. We were going to the Warhammer World. We've been twice and got utterly trashed by all of these posh kids. It's like I'm bringing my kids there, and they like got borrowed figures on 3 different colored Space Marines to get their army on the day, and they're up against kids who are in, like blazers with their club name on the back of it, and sports bags with their armies in. So you're like, wow. But I was looking forward to the moment because we've been doing it for a few years. That actually, we have a couple of kids now in year 9 and 10 who are getting to be pretty good players, and they probably could beat some of those guys.
Nice.
But then at the other end, the problem you have in the school environment. So in a club situation, if you go down to the club, fundamentally is your business to try and find yourself a game and some people. And one of the issues that I have, again, in school is because we're laying it on in school, that's not necessarily the same situation. If a kid wants to participate in the club, then he has to be involved. So what am I trying to say? I suppose if somebody's a very bad player, for example, and therefore nobody wants to play them because they don't really know the game. In a club situation, that player would struggle to find games, but might eventually find the right person. But in a kind of school club situation, you end up having to make one of the other kids play against them. And it's quite an interesting way of doing it, because I think it makes all of those kids a lot better at what they're doing, by explaining what they have to do and how the game works. They get to understand it a little bit better themselves. But have you had any experience of trying to teach people to play Warhammer?
I have had like a game against an ex-girlfriend where I've sort of talked her through the first couple of turns and stuff like that. I've also played my mate's son now, the mate from Derby. His son is sort of tentatively getting into the hobby, but he's still very young for it. But I have games against him where I sort of I like to remove rules just for the sake of expediency. But my mate, I think he'd rather just play the full rules kind of thing with his lad. But I like to remove rules just so I can get rolling dice as much as anything, because that's the most fun part, just rolling dice, seeing what you get on the dice roll. But yeah, I don't have any massive experience with teaching people, but I have had a few games against people that are less confident with the rules or unaware of the rules until I explain them to them, until I set them out, really.
So here's one for you then, David. Warhammer's also good for getting kids to talk to people rather than push the triangle key on the PS4 handset. I mean, we do a lot of work with kids who've got sort of social anxieties and learning difficulties, haven't we? And I don't know about you, but I've found that Warhammer has been fantastic for getting those kids to interact with others.
Well, because the attractive thing about Warhammer, I think, so especially if we look at some of the students that we work with that are either just autistic or maybe say on the autism spectrum, the things that attract them to Warhammer are the statistics, the numbers, the probability, the rules, basically.
Yeah.
But to really enjoy those rules, you've got to interact with somebody. You've got to talk to that other person. You've got to explain to them what you're doing. How many times? We've got one student who plays with, is it Drakari he plays with? And I have to just go, wait, slow down. What are you doing? Wait, what?
Oh, yeah. We have a 13-year-old playing Drakari, and everything that if you don't know, if you've never played Warhammer, the Space Dark Elves, all of their rules just break all of the rules. It sounds like they're cheating every time they say, "Oh, I'm allowed to do this." Can you show me that? Because I don't believe you.
I'll get the book out. But this is a really nice process of those students having to go actually having to explain that to somebody and get it. And I think that's invaluable, especially for our young people. So that's why I absolutely love it. I love what we do with them. I think it's wonderful. And we've seen them. We've seen how much better they are now, and how much they're sort of developing with their communication, their ability to express themselves. It's wonderful.
And seeing that, and seeing the painting progressing as well, of course, from the hobby side, because because it's a school environment, they can't bring on painting models in week after week after week. There's got to be some progress. Got to be painting them, and you see, because the objective with the club is to form a school team and to take them to some tournaments, and you just lose points if they're not painted. But I just think if you're getting 12-year-olds into this hobby, they've got to paint.
Yeah,
you're in the wrong hobby if you're not going to paint these, I think. Because it's just too expensive a hobby to be expecting from the age of 12 that you're going to buy painting models or whatever. You need to milk every penny out of this hobby because it's expensive. And the painting, if you don't like the painting and the building and the modeling, there's other things on this, like Star Wars or so, where there's pre-painting models you can get into that.
Well, you don't like the building and the painting, so
apparently so. Cool. Sending them off for other people to paint them.
That is
so
Hang on, can you just clarify what we've got here? He is now holding in his hands a Lannister army for the Song of Ice and Fire, which he didn't pay for, and it's his, and he's moaning at me for making him paint it. So I gave him an army.
Oh, I didn't realise I was getting them. I apologise.
Yeah.
Michael.
John claims that I'm making paint stuff. I don't make
all the time.
You're a grown man. Stick up for yourself. I used to work at GW Donkey years ago. Part of the job was introducing new players. So I just think that I guess the thing that I was coming to in terms of new players, though, I think Games Workshop is a really bad gateway game. You know, it's really complicated, and they've had fantastic sets for beginners over the past 2 years, past 2 editions. But in each case, they've got really complicated factions in them. Like the Deathguard had that disgustingly resilient mechanic, which is a complicated and clunky. After you've resolved everything else, you then go back and do this again. And the Necrons have got reanimation. So I'm not saying they're not great models. I'm saying, why haven't you just got Space Marines on Space Marines and keep or orcs? You know what I mean? Keep it all at a really simple level, just using the core mechanics. And I don't think that they've yet provided that. It's one of the things, because we review a lot of product on the channel. I looked at a lot of different starter sets, and I think GW starter sets are great value compared to their other models, but they're not great starter sets, I don't think.
Yeah. No, I agree.
We are at 10 minutes to go, folks. Kind of progress have we made? I've got another coat of dark blue on all of these Marines. Johnny B?
You know, I jokingly said that I was going to paint this Celt and he was going to look like the American flag. That was a joke. But
Captain America.
It's actually starting to happen. He's got blue pants. He's got a red tunic. I'm going to do white stripes on his legs as well. He is going to look like the American flag. Apologies.
Nice.
Very nice.
But he's actually going to be French.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's what I meant. I'm using the French flag colours. That's what I meant.
It's an awful learner. Pogson, where have you got to?
Oh, you know, just they got paint on them now. They didn't earlier. I think that's where we need to leave it. You know, they've got like a cheeky little burgundy as the base, and then I'm just sticking on some lead belcher. Just layers and layers and layers, and I'll hopefully make it look pretty at some point soon.
Nice and clean job you've done there, mate. Nice.
Clean. Yeah, I was taught well.
Where, Pogson, where do you put all your miniatures once you finish them?
My wife makes me put them in a box under the bed and
hide them away.
Says, hide them away. How dare you?
I think John may be referring to your orcs.
Yeah, well, it was probably the first ever real Barney we'd had. We were tidying the house, and I was like, "Where are all my models? Where's that?" She went, "They're under the bed." Like, well, how am I going to get them out? She was like, "Well, you know, we'll get them out when you need them." I was like, "What?" Going to a big old argument, but we got them out. We came to a compromise, and they're under the
bed. Came to a compromise, and they're under the bed. And you.
I have to do what she said.
I've got a bit of red on most of my lads from the.
Oh, nice!
Nice. Is that
so fast for that?
The very first of the Underworlds? Is that the
the very first one? Yeah. So it was 3 Stormcasts against 5 Khorne lads.
Very nice. Okay. So gateway game then. If you weren't going to do Warhammer, I know what we do. The first game that I actually play with the kids is the Gale Force 9 Tanks game, because it's very simple. You can give each player a tank. It's quite cheap, so they could go away and play it themselves, and they learn the basics of dice games and tactics. But what other experiences or suggestions would people have, both in the comments and here, as a starter game? 11-year-old kid wants to get into the hobby. What should they play, John?
That's really tough, isn't it? What about the ones that they've aimed specifically at them? The ones you can pick up from the likes of Game. So little Timmy's gone in to go and buy, I don't know, an 18 rated game.
GTA 17 or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, that one. But at the side, there's Space Marine Adventures, which is a nice little... You know, it's not relevant to any of the actual game systems in mechanics, but it introduces you to the lore, the world of 40k, but that's just specifically there. If there's an alternative of another sort of historical game system or something like that, then by all means, I mean those sort of games that are just, you know, that are legitimately gateway games. If you can find them.
All right, David.
Tanks. I think Tanks is great.
Yeah.
You know, I think we've seen that being really successful with a lot of the students. They really love it. Some of them really getting into it. Yeah, I think Tanks is wonderful.
If you are a dyed-in-the-wool Warhammer player and painter, and you have never built and painted a 15mm tank, you should go away and do it, because it is a dream compared to what you're used to doing. It's, you know, the kit's quite relatively simple. You get yourself a reasonable sized vehicle out of it, and it's all just wash and dry brush, put a couple of decals on, practice weathering. It's such a pleasure compared to painting anything figurative. Is to paint a small boxy thing that only costs a $5, which is the other thing I really like about tanks. Those 15mm plastic tanks, they work out about a $5 each, but it's a nice self-contained project that's easy to build, paint, finish, and say this is mine. So you, Big Mek Danskull, any suggestions about the gateway games?
I don't have much gaming experience other than 40k. I played a little bit of Age of Sigmar and stuff. But if you're talking gateway games, for me, I would take you from board game into the sort of war gaming or miniatures gaming sort of arena. So I think maybe something like Zombicide, so something that has miniatures in it, but you don't have to paint them. But you can paint them if you want. So it's sort of, you know,
you'd be mental trying to paint an entire Zombicide.
You might have one weekend. Yeah, absolutely. But one weekend you might want to paint up some of the zombies or something like that, just because it's raining outside and you can't go and play football instead. So you know, and the minis, the essentially, even though the game is about 80 quid or something like that, essentially these minis don't cost much. They're like £1 minis, something like that. So you don't mind doing a bad job on them and sort of encouraging you to the miniature side of the hobby. I feel like that's a sort of a gateway game, but you know, not necessarily what you think of right away.
Games with miniatures, only a few minutes to go. So, but yeah, I mean, board games is an interesting one because I don't know how common it is, but I like to regard myself as a gamer. You know, I like computer games, I like board games, I like miniatures games, I like role-playing games. You know, I'd have a small bet with you over whose dog was faster if we were out in the park. Do you know, any kind of gaming opportunity, I'm in there. My hands will not let low either the dice, the card, or the geldling. I want to touch them all, sir. Is that most people's experience? Do you feel that you're a gamer in all of its forms, or do you see yourself as being I'm a war gamer or I'm a PC gamer?
I'd say myself, I'm a war gamer. Really, I don't dabble really in computer games anymore, other than like party games or pick up and play games, Mario Kart, FIFA, stuff like that. Occasional first person shooters, but not very often at all. So myself, I'm more of a war gamer myself. Or hobbyist, I'd say, rather than gamer even, because I don't play that often.
Don't play that often, absolutely. Yeah. But you're going to come and have a game with us, though, aren't you? We've talked about
yes. Yeah. I'll be having a game with you at some point, hopefully.
Maybe we'll teach a kill team, though, huh? That might be the thing to do. Yeah. Friends of General Haig, that's showing your age. I don't think any of the other panelists here know. WRG 6th edition Ancients was my gateway. I played that in the 90s, I think, and that is not a gateway drug. That is a game with tables. Make a charge roll on 2d6, add a whole pile of factors, and then discover that you didn't charge, or that you went impetuous, or just tire of the table.
Yeah,
and the many tables, and eventually one unit would rout, and then your whole army would just collapse. Brilliant. WRG 6 Hero Quest and Space Crusade. Yeah, because I don't know whether kids today get that experience. I mean, I certainly remember Hero Quest and Space Crusade very vividly. John, you remember Hero Quest, don't you? And you'd still love it.
I've got them both, and I intend to paint up Space Crusade next. But it's a different world, isn't it now? you got easy access. Things are at your fingertips, and it's instant gratification. There's none of this having to model and paint. Now, I was talking about the likes of computers, phones.
No,
Xbox,
I'm dealing with the comments.
Okay, you
Sorry.
laughed again at me saying instant gratification at your fingertips. And
Right.
I thought you took the wrong end of the proverbial meat stick.
No, I saw Subcommandante says ASL is clearly the best gateway game. That is Advanced Squad Leader, which is perhaps regarded as the most complicated counter-based hexagonal war game ever created. People can fill their house with supplements for Advanced Squad Leader. It is a horrendously complicated game. Sorry, John. Space Crusade, you love it.
Was I saying stuff?
You were, yeah.
That's gone now, mate. I don't know where I were. That's gone.
David,
Next.
did you have Space Crusade Hero Quest as
Hero Quest, yeah. I think we used to play that, but I was very young. I think I was like kind of seven or 8. So I remember bits of it, but I remember loving it, really enjoying it, and then obviously, I think I tried to buy a box a couple of years ago and realised.
Oh no, mate! no.
To get the box.
No. I keep thinking that about Epic. I'm thinking I'm better off waiting for them to re-release it.
Johnny B does do Bagsy's playing. Bagsy's. I'm back right here, right now.
Johnny B's well up for it. If we play Hero Quest, we're going to get some girls to play that, so it's not a total sausage fest. Can you wear a dress?
I can wear a dress.
Cool. And Big Mek Danskull, were you drawn in by Space Crusade Hero Quest?
No, that was a little bit before my time. So I was into. I'll look 56, but I'm only 36. So I got into the hobby around the time of 2nd edition, late 90s, mid to late 90s kind of thing. So that was. Space Hulk was around, yeah, but I really didn't. I hated the old metal Terminator miniatures, so it never drew me in.
You had the kind of the Space Wolf Terminator time. Was that when you were interested?
No more. Around the time of the Viper jet bike release for Eldar, my first army was Eldar. Like the aesthetic of the Eldar drew me in more than anyone else. So
you're one of those, yeah. Only because in 2nd ed, Eldar were broken. With their death spinners and your pop-up attacks, I
remember the pop-up attacks, but I never played enough games back then to benefit from the.
Never realised how overpowered you were.
Yeah.
The Space Crusade and thing. I just want to, although we're pretty much out of time now, and it was interesting because there were Milton Bradley games. They sat on the shelf of toy stores next to Monopoly and Cluedo, and I think that I don't know whether that was a golden age for gaming. But I certainly know that a lot of gamers today, that is their ancestry. You know, there's people, I played those games and then went to a games club and then did things like played 6th. And although Space Hulk is similar, that wasn't a Milton Bradley game. That was a Games Workshop game. You know, you might get copies of it in Debenhams, but really you had to be in the gaming scene. But Space Crusade and especially Hero Quest was marketed as a mass market board game, the TV adverts and all of that. And I think it's a shame for gaming that there isn't something like that today that just has a whole generation of kids. Not that everyone played it, but even my sisters played Hero Quest. You know, my little brothers have played it. They're not gamers, but they know that they're not gamers because they played Hero Quest when they were 8 or 9. It wasn't really for them. Do you know what I mean? And I'd really like to see something like that again for our young people. I think with that huge mass market appeal, I think Warhammer always does really well because it's got a high street presence. And if you go into their shops, you'll see it's the uncles and the grandmas coming in with the kids, parting with their hard-earned cash. That's what that high street presence gives them, isn't it? Anyway. I'm going to call time there, guys. I think and yet again, I have failed to bring the calendar up and say who's on next week. I can't remember. I think it's Max from Warlord Games. He's one of their streamers. He's definitely coming on. I can't remember if it's next week, but we will put that out there. Thanks for joining us, guys. If you enjoyed the show, obviously, click the like button, click the subscribe. We will be doing an unboxing on Friday, and fingers crossed it will be Flames of War by Grecian Germans. It's supposed to be in the post to me, but it isn't arrived. It hasn't arrived yet. We still can't make any games. We are also experimenting at the moment with, what are they called? Shorts. You might want to turn your volume down a little bit because I've got one to share with you, but it comes out a bit loud in this format. So just turn your volume down a notch, and here we go.
Still recording, are we? Well, what can I tell you about Michael? It's loud, it's northern, it's a bit of a dick, but that's about it. You know, he likes to sing, he likes to talk over me when we're doing these videos. Every time he'll say, Johnny B, I want you to do a little bit more, you know, put some content in, put some words in there. And I'll try my damnedest, but every time he just escalates. He just doesn't shut up. But you know what more can I do? I'm me. Well, it's his channel. I don't want to mess about too much. Oh, well.
Still so true.
Some of you may have seen that before. A year or so ago, maybe in the early days, I'd gone away and left the camera on, and he'd left that for me as a little nugget on the reel when I was doing the editing. So we're gonna have a bit of a fundraiser for Johnny B, obviously. no, we're not. The shorts will be, you may not have seen them, you may say, I'm not even sure how they show up from your feed, but it's something we're experimenting with as a way of providing additional content. Instead of making a 5-minute video for really short reviews or model painting updates or something, we're looking at using that format, and we'd be really grateful for your feedback, whether it's actually something that you watch and enjoy. Because sometimes, you know, we haven't talked about black powder for ages, and I don't have a 20-minute video to make, but I could make you a 1-minute video saying these are the Union soldiers, these, you know, where we've got up to. Be interested for some feedback. Let us know. And in the meantime, from us, no, let's make sure you all know about Big Mek Danskull first. Tell them where can they find you when you're on. What do you do?
You can find me on youtube.com/Big Mek Danskull, and you can mostly find me streaming on Sunday mornings. There should be a video out on my channel tomorrow night, though, fingers crossed. It's a speed paint of an orc boy, and you can also find me on twitch.tv/Big Mek Danskull, where I stream on Monday and Friday early evening.
Awesome.
You had a go at this 5-minute challenge for the orc.
Yeah, I've had a go now. The model is up in the cabinet.
Right. But we have to watch the video if we want to see it.
Absolutely.
All right then, guys. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.